On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk about who's going to own cybersecurity, why HDR isn't always the same, and Google I/O is all about AI. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Crestron Electronics and by Daylight, the leading producer of high-quality projection screens worldwide.
This is ResiWeek episode 68. Step up to the plate.
This is ResiWeek.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott, for AVNation.tv. And today, I'm pleased to be joined by Jeremy Glowacki. He is the editor of Residential Systems. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I can't believe you're actually letting me back on here after
last time.
Yeah, all the horrible things that I've done.
Todd, Puma, he's the president of the Source Home Theater. How are you, bud?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Thanks for being here.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you do.
Oh, thanks.
I actually look up to you. I'm a big fan.
Well, that's because I'm taller than you.
That's true. Everyone's taller than me, but Tucker.
It's not that hard. And last but not least, hiding from video, we have Mosey Levy. He is the senior nerd at Backstage AV. How are you, my friend?
Very good, sir. Thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing all right. Doing just fine. All right, gentlemen, let's kick this off with our first topic. This comes to us from CE Pro and Julie Jacobson. Who will own the home cybersecurity market? Will it be security dealers, home automation pros, or Comcast, or any of those other big threes? Now, the fun part of this story is as you dig into it, what Julie's getting at, coming out of a recent ProSource conference, is that network security, as we've recently seen with all the fun from the worm that attacked most of Europe last week, is at a forefront. And what she's getting into and what they were talking about at this conference was someone needs to step up and take control of the home network and the cybersecurity issues that arise. Now, one of the key topics that or themes that emerged from it was that as much as residential integrators have tried for years to find RMR with equipment and with remote service and everything else, it has not gone as well. But does the opportunity exist for AV dealers to kind of not only take that on, but also find some true RMR in remote network monitoring? Todd, is this something that, although AV dealers may not be focused on it, is this something that they should be?
Listen, every opportunity and growth in this industry, there's constantly things being thrown at us in the last coming years that have changed our title from just the AV guy into the integrators, into specialists, and all knowledgeable. This actually question that you just asked made me think of my couple of guys that are local from here, security guys, GMI. They merged into security in the AV industry. And I'm curious what they actually have to think about this. But with the security ends, networking, it is kind of what we're dabbling at this point. But it is something that I would bring in a specialist. I partner with a couple IT guys and IT companies. In the last few months, we've been debating on bringing in a full-time IT guy versus a networking guy. Mm-hmm. So somebody who can kind of deal with the little trenches and security that's going on in people's homes. With us owning the network or saying that we own the network in the customer's home, a lot of customers are doing business from the home, dealing with information that they can't have spill out because we have an AV system that hasn't been protected. Most of us are dealing with the IT guys of their companies, which are fantastic. But it would be nice for us to own it and for us to offer a service just like this one. Now, having a big retailer like Comcast, Best Buy, whoever it may be, own this for us, it's just going to be a tool for us to sell even better than them because nobody really trusts these bigger boxes. Yes, they're a name there. It's a quick fix for them. But the companies or the one percenters or the larger clients that we're dealing with aren't going to be one to go with them. They're going to want to go with some guys like us that are kind of going to cater to them more on a personal level, give them that service that they expect. These companies over here, you give them a call, you're on the phone with 7 different guys.
Very good. Mosey, is the RMR or should the RMR be the focus for AV dealers that are getting into this, or should it really be more about, just protecting your client and making sure that your client stays as safe as possible from a networking standpoint?
I think one of the most important things is that when our clients look to us, they look to us to do everything related to technology in their home life. So there's really nothing that we can turn down and say we don't do that. If we don't do that, someone else is going to do it. When I walk through meetings, they ask me what I do. I give them a brief rundown. I tell them, at the end of the day, it's anything technology related. It's us for your home.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to step up to the plate. Being that the industry hasn't developed in that direction yet, I don't really know what step up to the plate means yet. And what kind of products or services we're going to implement, but it definitely has to be under our umbrella.
Very good. Jeremy, one of the quotes in this article that I found surprising, I guess, was Ahiji's Michael Maniscalco, and I probably butchered his last name as normal. But his quote at the end of the article was that our industry needs to do a better job of protecting them, or how are we any different from the big boxes? Adjust your business model, look more like the IT guy or a managed service provider. I know that a lot of times we don't want to be compared to IT. We feel that we do a better job of communicating than IT, a better job of, doing neat and tidy installs than IT, and all those things that AV guys like to rag on IT companies about. But something that IT has done that we industry-wise have still really never seemed to do is a charge for these kind of services, but also have an entire business model that's based on service. Yeah, they still sell boxes and provide boxes and do cabling and installations, but they're service providers. Is Mike's, kind of push for AV guys to become more like the IT model, is that an accurate push?
Well, Mike Maniscalco is
Thank you. Thank you.
He's been the evangelist for RMR since he co-founded Ahiji, and he's been fighting the good fight, but it's such a hard thing for this industry to embrace. I don't think they, just generally, it's a hard transition to sell the service. It's a hard thing to convince clients. They don't seem to be confident. Generalizing here, there are some that are good at it, but they don't seem to be confident asking for this monthly revenue on top of all this big ticket sale that they've already sold. There's this idea that comes up when you talk to people that you've already spent all this money with me. Why can't you just make it work? But I think that something like cybersecurity, you can make the case that this is going to be a problem. It's always going to be a problem, and you need to have us on, retainer, so to speak, to be able to make these, changes that have to occur, updates that need to be made to your network to keep it protected, to monitor when things go, when an attack is occurring. I think that, when you say your network might go down, they'll go, well, we'll call you if that happens. They could maybe get talked out of paying the service fee for that. Or hey, we want to monitor your network for you. And that might sound invasive, but if you say you might get attacked and your company material is connected to this computer, this network, you run a home office, whatever the case may be. Ransomware is a whole other thing. You take your family photos, whatever. You can it seems like you could make a better case for that. Now it's just a matter of, do you have the service to be able to do that? Do you have the resources to be able to actually solve those problems? It's one thing to say it, but then another is actually do it. And I liked what I read about the ProSource opportunities there. So here they have like a captive membership that they're offering these partnership opportunities for, so I think that in that case, it might be I would say as a ProSource member to say no to that opportunity would be, kind of missing a great chance to expand your business and capabilities.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our next article. This comes to us from CNET and Jeffrey Morrison. If you don't know him, he's a great follow on Twitter, tech writer Jeff. This is about why all HDR TVs or all HDR on TVs is not the same thing. He runs down kind of the whole gamut of essentially explaining what HDR is. If you don't know what high dynamic range is, you may not want to listen to the rest of the podcast. But notwithstanding, and he kind of points out a couple of key things. But number one is some of the stuff that we've known for years, specifically that HDR on a TV is different than HDR on your phone or on a camera, both in application and in the actual way it works. But specifically, one of the things that he goes on is something that we as integrators have known for years, that yes, there are differences between the guts and the engines that go into all of these different TVs. And just because it says some technology on the box doesn't mean that it's actually going to work like that in the field. Mosey, is this something that, obviously, again, we're trusting that most integrators understand HDR and they understand how it affects and looks differently on different models, whether they're local dimming or edge dimming and OLED versus traditional LED, et cetera, et cetera. But is this something that you want to get into with your clients on this kind of depth when you're looking at offering HDR or any new fangled technology to your clients?
So I want to step away from HDR and just say that it's a spec on a TV that the client may or may not care about. And over the years, it's been so many different things from 1080p, True HD, 3D TV, 4K, HDR, and whatever the next thing is going to be. It matters to a certain extent, but how much does it matter to my client, and how much does, what really matters to us as the integrator when we're choosing our TV? So when we're choosing our TV, the number one thing we care about is integration and not, say, HDR. So that's the number one thing is we're going to pick a brand that's integration friendly. Now, when it comes to HDR, no client has yet even brought up any of the specs that are listed by manufacturers. All that they bring up is they just bring up the size and how awesome they want it to be. And we're going to say, fine, what's your budget? We're going to get you the most awesome one from this brand that we prefer. And that's where it goes. So if you bring up HDR to a client, it's only if you're really trying to sell them between one unit and another. And to me, it's tell me what your budget is. I'll tell you the general differences between these 2-3 sets, and we'll go from there.
We have
HDR now is going to be something else next year.
We have so much information offering to our client. We need to pick and choose, where our battles are with the television market and how we approach that. It's kind of secondary. In my company, I rather approach more of the integration, the experience, and, sound. Visuals have become something that's kind of behind the scenes. There's a couple of televisions in their home that they're going to want to be the wow factor, and the majority of their home is just going to have, standard 4K TVs. They're going to go, those rooms, I don't care. I just, let me get something that works. I don't care how stunning it is. I just want it to be high def, They know the basic terms, HDR, all these little gimmicks, 3D, I think turned them off to all these extra words like, 4K. I don't care about 4K. I don't care about this. It's in my home. It looks great. I'm not in a store. There's not all these different televisions. We're selling them on a battle, or we're kind of battling for something that I personally walk away from. This is a topic that I don't approach my customer unless it's brought up to me. Or like Mosey was saying, it's dedicated based on the customer, the room, the solution, and the most important is the integration. HDR is secondary to what we're doing, or third or fourth or fifth.
On that note, customers aren't so obsessed with the quality of a specific TV unless it's a home theater room. All TVs have reached the point where they are good enough. And so dedicated rooms, sure, that becomes a much more of a discussion. But master bed TV or a kitchen TV or even a den TV. Just get a high-end Sony and you're done.
You're right. And the key is we talk about they want it to work at the end of the day. They want to make sure that the parts, right, when we're designing a system or engineering a system, we have to design it based on the specs that we're offering. So we need to know about it as the integrator based on the technology and televisions they're getting, based on the room boxes, the DM, the matrix switchers, or whatever it may be. But for the customer, they don't care. They just want it to work. They want it to look good. And they want to make sure that every time they press the source, whatever it may be, that it's going to work. Every single time. The customers, now that they have so much to think about with these systems, they just want to make sure consistently it's working. Whatever I have to purchase to make sure it stays consistent, that's all I care about, to keep my wife off my back. That's the lines I hear every single day. You know what? My job is to make their marriage better, not to get them divorced by buying a system that costs $200,000 that their wife didn't want in the first place, that she'd rather put that money into anything else but that.
No,
hey, Matt, I've had a couple of experiences that are more consumer level, and it surprised me because a lot of times with the trade stuff, I don't think most people know what we talk about behind the scenes in the trade. There's the consumer world just is kind of clueless, but every now and then there's a guy who buys a new TV that's a friend of mine. And like, for instance, I was over at a house and the guy had a nice big TV. It was beautiful set. And he went to the Netflix. Apparently there's an HDR catalog, which, because I don't have an HDR set, that doesn't show up in my Netflix maybe. And so he was like, look at all this. And I felt kind of like the dummy in the room, like I should know this already. I'm the trade guy. But so it looked pretty cool. And then my colleague, Matt, who spent a lot of money on a high-end set for Christmas, he and his fiance, and he was complaining that shows that are in Dolby Vision are supposed to go down to HDR10, which is the other general standard. And there's a couple of examples of shows on Netflix that are not, that come out worse than standard 4K, essentially. That are Dolby Vision shows, because he doesn't have a Dolby Vision TV. And he was just concerned that that's just going to, for those who are into it, they're going to get a bad taste in their mouth about this thing that's called HDR,
Well, and I think you bring up a really good point of, and everybody had good points today, but when we get past just what we as integrators know, which is, again, we don't really care about some of the specs per se. We want systems that work for our clients. But when you do get that client that is focused on specs and they want to look at everything with HDR, it's different, I believe, than 3D, in the sense of 3D hits a very limited market. When people see HDR, even when they're playing on their iPhone and they see that they can take a photo in HDR and get better color representation and a more dynamic picture, a lot of times that type of technology, just as you mentioned, Jeremy, becomes something that the techie kind of people really want to play with and really want to see. So I guess my question to you, Jeremy, is HDR something that, as it continues to progress, whether it be Dolby Vision or HDR10 or something new down the road, is it going to almost be as predominant as 4K in the sense of in consumers' minds?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think there's only so many times you can push a new thing on the consumer world, like to buy a new TV again. I mean, I think 4K has been pretty successful, surprising to me, because I thought once people kind of understood what 1080 whatever, HD, I don't think most people know 1080p, I think that they just know it's an HD set and call it a day. But then 4K comes along, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think they're going to buy this. I really don't. I was thinking that, just from what I hear from my friends, it's one thing if you're a CI guy and you say, this is the new technology, I'm going to, this is what you should have. And they go, sure, give me the best that you can get me. That's a different world. But the consumer world, they're probably going to turn on this. They didn't. And I guess because it just was like the race to the bottom on the pricing, they were so affordable right out of the gates so quickly. I mean, it took a long time for HD to be affordable. 4K was affordable immediately, almost. And so, It's almost like it's going to become just another feature of a 4K set to me. Like, I don't see it as a selling point that people are going to go, now I need to get the HDR thing.
Well,
Gotcha.
it's not Alexa in your TV. You know, that's the really important stuff to the customers. They want to talk to things. They don't want to talk to humans, but they'll go around all day in their house talking to everything.
Speaking of talking to things, and specifically things in your living room, this comes to us from Residential Systems. As I get this going, nice. That's
finally got one.
Yeah, you finally got one,
and yeah, it's exciting.
Fist bump.
Nice. All right. Google lays out their path at the I/O conference. If you don't know what I/O is, it is Google's big convention where they talk about all their fanciness and all the new stuff that's coming, kind of like WWDC for Apple or Microsoft's thing that I can't remember what it's called.
It's not Apple. No one cares.
Pretty much. Wow. I'm getting hate mail for that one. But anyways, at Google I/O, there was a couple of big announcements. One of the big ones that caught my attention was that essentially Google is looking to move from mobile first into AI first and continue to develop their deep learning. Now, Jeremy, we kind of talked about this a little bit and got into the specs that people get in their living room and how much they care or don't care about that. And we as integrators, we all know that we have some clients that could care less. They just want a working system. As Todd mentioned, we have some clients that, kind of care what's going in there. But is it something where we are actually expecting to see Google or anyone else for that matter bring some native, AI or voice recognition or whatever the vehicle is to get there, but to bring some direct communication where you can, again, talk or think or whatever, but want to do something, and without third-party systems and massive control platforms, be able to say, hey, show me, House of Cards in HDR, just for you, Todd, in HDR in my living room, and actually have it happen in the foreseeable future.
That's what it sounds like. Even though it's one of our stories, I didn't get a chance to talk to Michael Heiss directly, who wrote this. And so I was trying to understand as I edited what he was, what some of the points were that were relevant to our industry. It seems like that the big takeaway for me was that you get responses for searches directly on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just controlling House of Cards or whatever, but it could be a search for information like you do with Alexa or Google Home, and with Google Home, obviously you have the whole Google search mechanism behind you. And so this is perhaps a way for certain people who like to see something show up on their TV screen to have that as a feature, maybe. That, kind of what I was seeing there. And there's also this chance to type in questions, which is kind of retrograde when you think we're going to voice. Now, hey, you can also type it in. It's like, aren't we trying to get away from having to type it in? But that was mentioned as a feature of this technology. So I'm just trying to think of the applications, and that wasn't totally clear in what he was saying. And I think it's open to developers to figure out where to apply it, maybe, and creative there.
I think that talking to things is not the end all of AI. I don't want to talk to things so often. I might be alone on that. Sometimes there's other people in the room, whatever it is. I don't want to walk into rooms and just talk. And so sometimes I'm with people, I can type something and it could be a natural text thing, like I'm coming home, turn on my lights, and it does it for me. It doesn't have to be a specific button or a command, or there are other reasons or other interactions. But in terms of AI and talking, again, it can't just be the end of it. Talking can't be it. It's got to be, the future of TV is not going to be just saying, hey, I want to watch this. There's going to have to be some sort of connection with your life that then interacts with the TV, that they'll know what you want before you want it, before you even speak about it. And I think that's where the artificial intelligence is going to come between your social networks and your behaviors and your advertising, your shopping habits. It can be more than just what do you want to watch right now.
Is this a plug for Facebook integration right now? Because it sounds like a play for that. Let's talk more about Facebook.
No, we don't need Facebook.
Zuckerberg uses Crestron. He needs to know.
That's it. Anybody uses Crestron.
Nice.
Send a check over to Mosley, Brooklyn, New York.
So my last question, and feel free to answer this. One of the last statements that was made was that the fastest growing screen for control is not the mobile, but is now the one in the living room. Is this something that we foresee Google or Apple or anybody really pushing to make a predominant part of their business? Because I would argue that it's been flirted with for years, but no one in the industry or no one outside of the industry, none of the tech guys have necessarily made a big push to make this happen.
I think that silence speaks for it all.
You just blew everyone's mind.
The first thing you have to look at is that there are two different home automation markets. There's DIY and then there's the high-end residential. So for the DIY, I definitely see Google and Apple and Samsung and Amazon getting into home automation on a larger scale. I don't see Verizon or Comcast doing much. What they're doing right now is garbage, but Apple and Google control so much of your life already, and so does Amazon, that it's a natural extension. That, like you said, they're flirting with it. The future is there for the DIY. I just hope to see them open up some of the integrations to those larger companies or for Crestron or other companies like that to adopt these ways of controlling them. So on your iPhone, you have, I don't even know what it's called anymore, but you have, what's it called, Todd?
HomeKit.
HomeKit, yeah. So I'd love to see someone like Crestron get involved with HomeKit because it's great to control your Philips Hue, but our clients are not going to have Philips Hue. We don't want our clients to have DIY, or not that we don't want to have it, but we want to have the really custom systems. We want to see these Apple versions or Google versions that are on your TV or on your phone integrate with that. I mean, that's what concerns me.
It's going to have to be when we get to the point where we can actually integrate with, dare I say, professional grade products with some of these other mainstream systems. That's when we'll start to see that holy grail, because just as you said, Mosey, and no one needs to control a Philips Hue bulb.
What? With
a voice system from our industry.
I know. I'm just kidding.
We don't stop causing trouble, Todd. You want to see those true integrations and those high level things, because our clients that are spending, six figures on an automation system, they still want it to work with their HomeKit or with their Siri or Amazon or Alexa, and all these things combined, and not being able to do it is what's limiting them getting there. And also, in my opinion, is what's limiting the growth of our industry, because the young people of today, the millennials or whatever you want to call them, as they're getting exposed to this, getting exposed to HomeKit, getting exposed to Alexa, Google Home, all this other stuff, and playing with that DIY space, once they start to want to go beyond that, a lot of them get turned off because they realize that they're sacrificing all this other cool stuff that they started with.
Well, here's how I envision life, right? Let's think about this. Everybody get like the imaginary idea. Get creative here, right? When a person walks into a home, I envision nobody in the family talking together, nobody having any conversations together. And if they want to talk, they talk through Alexa, because the first thing their husband says during the day, the wife is trying to talk to them. Honey, I had a really rough day. I'm sorry, I'm not going to speak at all today. Alexa, do me a favor, turn on channel 11, turn on the lights and get the bathtub ready for me. And you know what? Let's get the IV running. Like, where are we going in this industry? Are we trying to just eliminate people altogether? Just make everything about Twitter, no more family connections? I'm sorry, I'm an AV integrator. I'm all about integrating and giving customers a lifestyle experience. But when it comes down to all this communication and talking to TVs and talking to robots and whatever it may be, and getting on the phone and going on Twitter, and the only way you have a conversation or call somebody is through Alexa, is that the only girlfriend that anyone's going to have?
The future. No, you're missing the future. Is that Alexa will be the marriage counselor as well.
Oh, no. Listen, every single day when I tell customers, please, before you call me, ask Alexa how to resolve your issue. Don't call me first. Okay, you have a problem with the cable box? Just say, okay, I have an issue with my cable box. How do I disconnect this? The Alexa will turn around and say, I have no idea. She won't even answer you back. She'll talk something in Japanese. I don't know what she's going to say. But, with that, she's artificial intelligence. Eventually, she'll give you an idea, and that's it. She won't even have to worry about it. We don't even have to do anything anymore. Jeremy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we do get kind of caught up in all this stuff, and all you have to do is just take a walk. Not to get all like granola on you, but all you do is take a walk outside on a beautiful day and go. It's not all about this voice, control stuff. It's just a little piece of tech, and people will either take to it or they'll get over it, and we're making a big deal out of nothing. But artificial intelligence. I've always been kind of uncomfortable. I'm a bit of a private guy, and I didn't like way back when Amazon Books decided to tell me what kind of books I wanted to read, and I thought that was kind of invasive. That was like 15.
And now you love it.
Yeah, well now you kind of it's a cool thing, It's like Netflix. I like Netflix to tell me, hey, check out these shows because there's too much content to kind of wade through. But I can see applications for AI if it doesn't go too far, and that's the big question: where does it go? And we don't know.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's wrap this up. Thank you all for being here. I had a good time. Jeremy, where can people connect with you?
Well, on Twitter at ResiSys and residentialsystems.com website.
Very good. Todd, thanks for being here, buddy. Where can people connect with you?
Just ask Alexa or Google Home. They will give you the answer.
Nothing from Surrey, huh? No love for Surrey.
No, it's cold. We broke up.
Oh,
I've been communicating a lot with Alexa, and she just doesn't do what I want anymore.
Well, I can't blame her.
I don't blame her either. Even technology doesn't want to bother with me.
Exactly. Mosey, thanks for being here, my friend. Appreciate it. Where can people connect with you?
Sure. We're on Instagram, BackstageAV. And thank you very much for today. It was a lot of fun.
Hey, thanks for being here. For myself, if you'd like to follow me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter, Instagram, and everything else. But more importantly, please take a moment to stop by AVNation.tv. You'll find this show, as well as a wide variety of our other shows that cover all the verticals we cover. When you're at the website, please take a moment to check out our underwriters. We're extremely thankful for their support and ask that you support them as well. Thanks again for watching, and that's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.